Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something really fascinating. We are peeling back the layers of the Prime Minister's recent, wide-ranging public address to look at the hard economic rationale hidden right inside of it. We're not just skimming the surface here. We're going to break down the exact logic that ties massive macroeconomic strategies straight to your daily life.
And honestly, to really get this, we have to start right here. The Prime Minister said, when 140 crore people take one step forward, the country takes 140 crore steps forward. That right there, that's the hook of the entire speech. The core idea is that these massive, totally overwhelming global challenges we're facing, they can't just be fixed by government action alone. They literally require millions and millions of synchronized micro-actions from everyday people.
Okay, let's dive into this outline. We'll start with the impact of the global crisis, move into the appeal to save foreign exchange, then touch on self-reliance in agriculture, domestic tourism and weddings, and wrap up with the power of public participation. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The impact of the global crisis in the very real threat of global instability.
The speech sets up a really clear timeline of back-to-back global shocks. You've got the COVID-19 pandemic, which the speech points out as the greatest crisis of the century, followed by huge global economic challenges, and now the current tensions in West Asia. It's important to note how the address frames this ongoing conflict. It's not just some distant geopolitical issue. It's framed as one of the biggest crises of the decade that's directly hitting India by creating this environment of constant, unpredictable global instability.
All right, Section 2. The appeal to save foreign exchange. Basically, the why. Why you and I are being asked to act to protect national wealth. So the speech zeroes in on what it calls a double crisis. Imagine this. On one hand, you have absolutely astronomical import prices for everyday essentials. On the other hand, global supply chains are just totally shattered. When these two things collide, it means India is essentially forced to hemorrhage millions upon millions in foreign currency just to keep things running normally. Now, what's really interesting here is exactly where that wealth is bleeding out. The speech specifically calls out three massive drains on our foreign exchange: crude oil, edible oil, and gold. And when you realize that crude oil largely comes from the exact regions currently caught up in conflict, you can see how immense the economic pressure really is. It leaves the nation deeply vulnerable to outside shocks.
So how does this speech connect a massive macroeconomic headache to you and me? Through these rapid-fire lifestyle requests. To slash that huge crude oil import bill, the Prime Minister is asking citizens to fundamentally change how they consume energy every single day. The requests are incredibly specific. He's talking about carpooling, taking the metro, switching to EVs, prioritizing virtual meetings in both the public and private sectors, even moving school classes online temporarily. The logic is simple. Every single gallon of fuel saved is foreign currency protected.
And then there's this really striking directive. The speech makes a direct, specific plea to citizens to actually hold off on buying gold. Why? Well, because India imports vast quantities of gold, and those purchases cause a massive outflow of national wealth. The idea here is that by simply postponing this luxury habit until things normalize globally, everyday citizens are actively defending the nation's economy. It's pretty wild to think about it that way, right?
All of this defensive economic strategy culminates in vocal for local. Now, the speech makes it clear this isn't just a catchy slogan, it's framed as a necessary mass movement. It is a highly calculated strategy to keep capital circulating right here at home. By buying local, you're empowering domestic entrepreneurs in your own cities and villages. You're effectively building an economic fortress to protect against those unpredictable foreign supply chains.
Moving on to Section 3, self-reliance in agriculture. Let's see how this massive philosophy applies to one specific, absolutely vital sector.
The shift the PM is asking for here is incredibly direct. The speech advocates for transitioning away from chemical fertilizers straight into natural farming and swapping out diesel water pumps for solar pumps. The narrative is doing two things at once. Yes, it's about protecting Mother Earth from chemical damage, but economically, it's a calculated move to sever our reliance on imported foreign fertilizers and imported diesel. It's about making Indian agriculture 100% self-reliant.
Section 4. Domestic tourism and weddings. We are pivoting from the farm right into cultural habits and luxury spending. Here, the Prime Minister offers a pretty sharp critique of a growing trend, taking foreign vacations and throwing massive destination weddings abroad. The speech points out that this modern fashion just results in a massive amount of foreign exchange unnecessarily pouring out of the country. The proposed fix? Bring that spending back home. Cultivate pride in our domestic heritage. teach the kids local history, and essentially lock that massive wedding industry revenue safely inside our own borders.
The speech even pitches a specific alternative. It highlights Ekta Nagar and the Statue of Unity, literally the tallest statue in the world, as the ultimate domestic destination for weddings. It frames getting married on Indian soil as a way to receive the blessings of ancestors. So it's seamlessly blending deep cultural sentiment with a very hard economic objective, retaining our wealth.
And it goes even further with a super specific call to action for the Indian diaspora. The Prime Minister urged non-resident Indians to motivate at least 5 foreign families to visit India. Just 5. Think about that. It's basically a targeted micro-level marketing campaign outsourced directly to citizens, designed to actively pump up inward foreign exchange through tourism.
Finally, Section 5, the power of public participation. How do all these completely different requests, from farming to weddings to virtual meetings, actually tie together?
So the crucial point is this concept of Jan Bhagidari, or public participation. The speech makes a very clear assertion: government intervention alone just isn't enough to shield the country from global instability anymore. The real shield? It's the collective, united responsibility of every single citizen. Whether you're a farmer turning on a solar pump, an office worker taking the metro, or a family deciding to host a wedding in Gujarat instead of Europe, the speech frames these not just as personal lifestyle choices, but as essential acts of national economic defense.
Which brings us to a really provocative final question. Will these small individual resolutions actually become a major force in helping India overcome global crises? The entire logic of the speech hinges on this one belief, that micro-actions scale up into massive macroeconomic solutions. It is a fascinating look at how a nation's leadership attempts to mobilize everyday people to build a resilient domestic economy in a very volatile world. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you decode the deep economic strategy behind the address. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.